Hi everybody, welcome to the Unit 1.2 review video. Your test is going to be over clearing the fractions, variables on both sides, equations, and literal equations. So make sure that you watch all three parts of this video if you need to, or you can select one part that you feel like you need the most work on. So let's go ahead and get started. This part's covering clearing the fractions. And if you notice, my least common denominator here is 4 because it's the only denominator that I have. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 4. These 4's cancel, and you're left with negative x equals 6 times 4, which is 24. We need to get this x to be positive, so what I'm going to do is divide by negative 1 on both sides. So in this problem, x equals negative 24. All right, in problem under the target practice 1F, we have a least common denominator of 7. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 7. These 7's cancel, and I'm left with 3x equals negative 14. Okay, so then to get x by itself, I have to divide by 3. So x equals negative 14 over 3. All right, in problem 2, once again, we only have one denominator, which is 5. It's the only number in the bottom of my fractions in this entire equation. So I multiply each part of my equation by 5. Notice I have to multiply the 4 by 5 also. Then I cancel out what I can. Those 5's cancel. So I'm left with 3t plus 20 equals 30. Okay, the first step is subtracting away the 20. And remember, our whole goal is to get t by itself. So I bring down the 3t. And 30 minus 20 is 10. Then we're going to divide both sides by 3. Those 3's cancel, and you end up with t equals 10 over 3. So now in problem 2F under the target practice column, I need to clear the fractions of 2. So my least common denominator is 2 because, again, it's the only denominator that I have. So I multiply by 2 in every part of my fraction. These 2's cancel, so I'm left with h, 1 times h, which is h, minus 1 times 2, which is 2, and then 3 times 2, which is 6. Then I need to get the h by itself, so I'm going to add 2 on both sides to create a 0 pair right there. I bring down my h, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So my answer is h equals 8 to this problem. Sorry, and the answer to problem number 1 was negative 14 over 3. All right, let's move on to problem 3. We have 9 plus 24b over 3 equals 8b. Well, my least common denominator is 3. So I'm going to multiply each side of my equation by 3. Now, I cancel these 3's cancel out, and I'm left with 9 plus 24b equals 8 times 3, which is 24 times b. Now, I have to get my variables on one side, so I'm going to subtract 24b from both sides to get all my b's together on one side of my equal sign. I get a 0 pair right here, and then I bring down my 9, and 24b minus 24b is 0. So that is a false statement. So that means the solution to this problem is that there is no solution. There is no value of b that you could plug into that equation that will make it true. All right, on problem 3F, our least common denominator is 6 because it's the only one. So I multiply both sides by 6. These 6's cancel, so I'm left with 5 minus g equals negative 1 times 6, which is negative 6. Okay, now I want to get g by itself, so I have to get rid of this positive 5 out here, right? So the opposite is negative 5. So I subtract 5 from both sides. That cancels. I bring down negative g, and then I get negative 6 minus 5 is negative 11. Okay, so now I have to get rid of this negative sign out front, and the way I do that is divide by negative 1. This negative and negative 1 cancel, so I'm left with g equals negative 11 divided by negative 1. and that comes out to be positive 11. So my answer to problem 3F is G equals 11. All right, on problem 4, I need to clear my fractions, and I have 4 and 3 this time in my denominators. So I have to think of a number that can be divided evenly by 4 and 3. And that number is 12. 12 can be divided by 4, and 12 can be divided by 3. So I go ahead and multiply each part of my equation by 12. And remember, I ignore my parentheses for right now. 12 divided by 4 is 3, so now I'm going to put a times 3 up here. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, and there's no denominator underneath this 2 right here, so I leave it as times 12. So 3 times 3 is 9, and then I bring down the x minus 5, plus 2 times 12, which is 24, and then 1 times 4 is 4. So now I have to get rid of my parentheses. I multiply 9 times x and 9 times negative 5. So I end up with 9x minus 45 plus 24 equals 4. Okay, so now I can combine my like terms. Negative 45 and positive 24 are both constants. They do not have a variable, so I can combine those. And when I do, I end up with 9x minus 21 equals 4. All right, I want the x by itself, so I add 21 to both sides first. This becomes a 0 pair. I bring down 9x, and 4 plus 21 is 25. All right, now I need to divide both sides by 9. And I end up with x equals 25 over 9 as my answer. All right, last problem on clearing the fractions. My least common denominator is going to be 15. And the reason I chose 15 is because it's divisible by 3 and 5. So I take 15 and multiply it by each part of my equation, ignoring my parentheses. There is no denominator underneath 4, so I leave it alone. But 15 divided by 3 becomes 5. And then 15 divided by 5 becomes 3. So 4 times 15 is 60. 1 times 5 is 5. So I bring down that minus sign, and then 5 times the quantity of x plus 2. And then 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, the first step is to get rid of my parentheses. So I have to distribute this negative 5 into my parentheses. So I multiply negative 5 times x and negative 5 times 2. So I end up with 60 minus 5x minus 10 equals 12. So 60 minus 10 is 50. And then I bring down the 5x, and that equals 12. All right, so I need to get x by itself. So I have to get my number, this 50, to go away. And it's positive 50. So I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides. I bring down the negative 5x. 12 minus 50 is negative 38. And then the last thing I have to get rid of is this negative 5. And we're multiplying negative 5 times x, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I divide both sides by negative 5, and I end up with x equals negative 38 divided by negative 5, which turns into positive 38 divided by 5. And that can't be reduced, so that is an acceptable answer. Okay, well, that's all for clearing the fractions. So go ahead and click on part 2, which covers variables on both sides.